Hello everyone, my name is Dima, and in this presentation, I want to talk about my experience with journaling throughout this course. I will talk about how my writing and the way I reflect changed from the beginning of the semester until now. I will also use some of my journals as examples and talk about what I learned about myself through writing and from the feedback that I received from my professor. In my first journal, I wrote about a busy night at the restaurant where I work. At the beginning of the course, I was mostly focused on describing what was happening around me. I wrote about the sounds, the customers, the kitchen, and the small details that I normally don't notice when I'm busy working. From the feedback that I received from my professor, I learned that my description was strong, but my reflection needed to go more deeper. At the point, I started to understand that reflective writing is not only about explaining what happened, it is also about thinking about why that moment was important to me and what I learned from it. In my second and third journals, I started to notice change in my writing. I wasn't only describing what was happening around me anymore. I started writing more about my feeling and my experience. And in journal 2, I write about sitting alone in my car after a long day and thinking about work, school, being away from my family, and the responsibilities that I have. Then in journal 3, I tried something different by writing a conversation between my past self and my present self. That journal helped me see how much I have changed since coming to Canada. I also felt more comfortable being honest in my writing. My instructor even mentioned in the feedback that he could see my progress in journaling, which showed me that my reflection was becoming deeper. One of the biggest things I learned from these journals is that reflective writing is more than just describing what happened. I learned that focusing on my specific moment and thinking about it deeply can make my writing more stronger. And I noticed this especially from the feedback that I received. My professor liked the specific and the personal moments in my journals, but sometimes I repeated the same ideas or tried to talk about too many things at once. This helped me to understand that writing more doesn't always make the reflection better, but sometimes one small moment can explain a feeling or experience better than a long general explanation. I think this is one of the biggest changes in the way I look at writing now. Journaling also helped me to learn more about myself. Before this course, I didn't usually stop and think deeply about my experience because I was always busy at work. Writing these journals gave me a chance to slow down and think about how much I have changed over the last a few years. I realized that becoming more independent wasn't always easy, but the difficult experience also helped me become stronger and more confident. I also learned that being strong doesn't mean that I never feel tired or stressed. Sometimes it means continuing even when things are difficult. Journaling helped me to notice this growth in myself because I was actually taking the time to think about experience that I normally just move on from. Looking forward, I don't think I will journal every day, but I can see myself using it when I feel stressed or when I have a lot on my mind. Before this course, I mostly thought of journaling as just writing about that happened. Now I see that I can be a way to slow down, organize my thoughts, and understand how I feel about an experience. I think it can also help me notice changes in myself that I might not see when I am busy with everyday life. The biggest thing I will take from this course is that reflection can help me understand not only what happened, but also what I can learn from it and how it can help me to grow. For my final reflection, I can see that I have changed as a writer during this course. I started with simple observation, but over time I learned how to reflect more deeply on my experience. I also became more confident in expressing my thoughts and more aware of what I was learning about myself through my writing. One thing I learned is that growth takes time, and I can see that when I compare my first journal to my later ones. I still have things to improve, but I'm happy with progress that I made. I think the most important thing I will take from this course is not only becoming a better writer, but also learning how to understand myself better through the writing. Thank you so much for listening.